Yeah, that takes us to the main event for the 2025 New Japan Cup Finals. We had the Rebel, David Finley, defeating the Roughneck, Shota Umino, in 27 minutes and 58 seconds.
I thought that this match, I was fortunate enough to catch it live and as it happened, and wow wow weeba. I thought it was fucking awesome. I thought this was a really, really, really great performance from both guys. Um, Easily one of the best Shota Umino singles matches of his career, and probably the best since like I don't know the last time I could probably think of a match like this that I really liked of his was like maybe the Moxley match last year, or maybe one of those Saber or I'm sorry,
Osprey.
Osprey match when Osprey left just before he left last year. But yeah, it was really, really something special. And both guys worked so hard, and it was very difficult to kind of tell who was going to win. There was a lot of times where um, I wish I would have booked this as my finals, because the way the storyline all came together, if it had come together the way that I had booked it out, where it was like going to be Shingo and Finley, you would have automatically known that Finley was going to go through. But when you have two guys who are in a do or die situation and you don't know who's going to win, that really ups the stakes by a lot and gets you invested, and just calls into question like where we're going with this, and the anticipation is just a lot higher for situations like that. And whatever your criticisms might have been of, and they're valid, I don't think that they necessarily handled Shota Umino perfectly throughout this tour, and I don't know if he's handled himself perfectly for years now. Um, the remaining end result still was a situation where it was like, I don't know who's going to win here. Both guys need the win. It's do or die, and they were able to really tug on the emotions of the people in the building and me at home. And I was kind of like really waiting on bated breath for a lot of those near falls down the stretch.
Mm-hmm.
This was hard hitting, very, very hard hitting. And I think that for me, we're at a point with David Finley, and both guys deserve praise. I mean, it's not a one-sided dance, but there was a time frame where David Finley was a very, very talented wrestler who could only have great matches with when he was led to a great match with other guys that were really good. Like, he was a really great follower, and he needed a great lead to guide him through that sort of style of match. And he's kind of graduated beyond that now to where he is now capable of leading others. And he's gone through, he sat under the learning tree of guys like Ishii and Jay White and, Will Ospreay and a few others, to where he's developed this style of match to where he's able to have this sort of great match with somebody else that can follow him. And that's what he did here. And I thought that he lost a few times, and I was like kind of really invested. And then when he finally fucking won it down like at the very tail end, I was like, oh shit, he fucking did it. And then 1, 2, 3, and I was like, hell yeah. I might have been wrong a lot about this, about my predictions, but the end result, Finley 1, 2, 3,
Yeah, and that was a total Dave Finley match where the beginning part of the match he's just bullying Umino around and showing the power, throwing him around, throwing him to the pole on the outside. There was that great Uranagi through the table on the outside that led to a near count out on Umino. And yeah, Finley was just being the big bad bruiser and destroying Umino the beginning part of the match, and trying to get sympathy for Umino from the crowd. And then Umino had to come back and fight from underneath, fight through the back pain, and having several good near falls himself. And there was that great spot where Finley charges in and Umino catches him with that running knee. That was very devastating. And so
that was like the highlight spot of the entire evening.
Yeah, it was just nuts. And like I thought that, that could have been like a flash win right there. And Yeah, this is probably one of Umino's best outings in a while now, and yeah, he looked really good, fought from underneath. But I really feel like Dave Finley shined a lot in this match, and I kind of feel like his fingerprints were all over this matchup here. And yeah, like you mentioned, he had to see the overkill towards the end there. He's been doing that kind of like Finley roll into the overkill, and yeah, got the 1-2-3, defeating Shota Umino. Interesting post match comments, telling Umino, if you want to do stuff, you need to do it my way. I've been trying to tell you. So kind of planting some seeds there of, will Umino join the War Dogs? But yeah, really, really good New Japan Cup final here.
Yeah, and I thought it was interesting how many fans I saw online, their takeaway from the match was like, we were right about Shota Umino all along. Like this is the justification of our fandom and support for him. And for me, I now don't get me wrong, I do think that there's been some interesting developments with him as a character. Last week when people mentioned him cosplaying as Kensuke, I didn't know what the fuck they were talking about, but I wasn't thinking. They're referring to the style of match, the style of work, him basically using a lot of the same maneuvers. And I didn't put that together at first, but then after they started mentioning it even on commentary, I was like, oh, I guess he is kind of working like that powerhouse strong style, lots of big lariats, lots of big strikes and sort of thing, powerhouse sort of stuff, which kind of matches up really well with what Finley's got going on with his, kind of bullying powerhouse style of match as well. But and we don't know what's going to happen. There was the post match where Tanahashi in the backstage tried to come and almost kind of congratulate or even quasi console Umino, and Umino brushed him off and paid him no attention and left. But he did give the fist bump, I believe, to David Finlay in the ring after losing to him.
Yeah.
And so with that being the case, I do think it's interesting where they're taking the character of Shota Umino, what they're doing, the development. He looks like $1 million physically right now, and he sort of has a blank slate for them to do something fresh and new with this character shift, with him shaving his head and wearing the all white. But this man laid 3 eggs during the tournament before he had a classic. And I don't know, Jeremy, call me old fashioned, but you can't have one classic at the end of a tournament and be like, see, they were right all along. This man has the goods. Let me be very clear in how I feel about Shota Umino. The question has never, ever, ever at any point been, does Shota Umino have the goods to be a top performer? The question has always been, why the fuck doesn't he turn up as a top performer time and time and time again? Yeah. And I can think of literally in the last 3.5 years or however long it's been since he's come back from excursion, I can think of 15 really great Shota Umino matches. It's not, there is this idea that people say he only has great matches with certain opponents. That's not true. I can think of a ton of great tag, but mostly singles matches with a wide variety of opponents. But I can think of 30 plus big time singles matches where he shit the bed, right? And that's not hyperbole. Go to his cage match, look for yourself.
Yeah.
Those are
do your own research.
Do your own research. And I'm just like, okay, we are on a good path for him, and I want things to turn around. But there's so many people that are ready to say right now, oh, he had this fantastic match. We've turned the corner. Let's have him string together just 3 great matches, 3 great performance. And I'm not even going to count road to tags and shit like that. I'm talking about he gets put in a singles match. Let's have him have good matches. he's never had more than 2 great matches back to back. And those are even few and far between. Most of the time, it's a string of really bad matches, 1 great match. Everyone says, like, oh, he's back. And then he has more bad matches. He is one of the most inconsistent performers that we have ever seen. And then people are like, why are we so harsh on him? Why is there this microscope? I can't think of anybody that I have ever seen in the history of New Japan that I've been watching that has been given this many chances at the top of the company, who has failed this many times and still been allowed to continue to get those spots when there are clearly much more deserving individuals that are waiting in the wings who should rightfully have those spots. And if you believe the reports, you believe what people say about the backstage and what the view is, it is a nepotism situation. And that is what a lot of people feel and believe. And I can't say that I've heard those things myself personally, but look at the handwriting on the wall. How many times has this guy been given a shot? If it was anybody else and they failed that many times in that many big spots, they wouldn't be canned, but they wouldn't be pushed the way this guy's been pushed.
Yeah, and I mean, recent example, you look at a guy like Sonata, who had that main event push, had that big world title push for leader of faction, and clearly they didn't, management didn't really see him, excelling in that role and being that guy. And look where he's at right now. And we've seen that time and time again, where guys they get shots, they don't knock it out the park, and then they kind of get relegated to a mid card position. And I think there is a lot of eyes on Umino because, like you mentioned, he's being pushed in a top spot in the company. He's not being pushed as a mid carder or upper mid card guy. He's a guy that they've over and over again have been pushing out there, being put in these big spots, big main events, tournament finals, main event in the Tokyo Dome, and he is not delivering. It would be a totally different case if all these other young guys were getting some of the same opportunities of them and failing. Then we can kind of have equal judgment or equal examination. But this is a guy that's being pushed out in front of all those guys and not always delivering. Like you said, yeah, he's very, very, very inconsistent. And yeah, there is no question of his in the ring. Like the mechanics, like he has it down. He's been through the dojo. Like, he can do the moves. It's putting the moves together to create a compelling story in the ring, to have a compelling matchup. And for whatever reason, more times than not, he just is not able to put it all together, especially if he's not in there with a great worker. Then he's not that point where he can lead somebody, and he's even in there. They gave him Shingo Takagi. How do you have a bad match with Shingo Takagi?
I mean, to be fair, on this tour, it does seem like if you're in a brightly lit, half-filled, public gymnasium, then all bets are off when it comes to the performance of the guys on the tour. And maybe we should just make peace with that's how New Japan Cup really is. No matter how good it looks on paper, you kind of need to look at the venue and be like, all right, are we working? Or are we shooting? Like, what are we doing on this night?
Well, he was in the Tokyo Dome with Zack Sabre Jr., one of the best wrestlers in the world. He had all the lights and all the people there and still laid an egg. So for him, it doesn't matter what the building is and how many people are there. And they give him great opponents, and they give him great stories, and they build sympathy for him. And before this new look, he had all the gimmicks, and he was clapping hands and kissing babies, and had the women and children behind him, and they give him it all, and he just doesn't really deserve what they've given him. And here again, they gave him a final main event, which also we were kind of predicting Shingo to come out from that. And on one hand, I'm kind of glad it was Umino. This ended up being one of the youngest finals since 2013, with Finley being 31 and Umino being 27. So it's kind of good to kind of get some young blood kind of main eventing this tournament. But at the other hand, it's like, man, like you mentioned, this guy, did not have a great tournament, and then kind of just barrel rolls his way into the final. It's pretty much kind of like how he got to the Tokyo Dome. It's like he did not have a great G1 and just kind of banana peeled his way into a Tokyo Dome main event.
Right. And the reason I said all that is to say two things, really. My two main points are, well, I guess there's three. One, it's going to be hard for me to buy in to Shota Umino as a fan until I see a level of consistency. And I'm not trying to move the goalpost to, oh, he needs to have a 5-star match every time out. It's not like that, but he needs to have good matches several times in a row as a consistent performer, a dependable guy that we as fans can believe in. Because so far, you know, he can go out there in Chicago and tear the roof off the house with Jungle Boy, but then, turn around and have a match with like Yota Tsuji, like Tsuji in the fucking G1 and like shit the bed, it's shit like that, where it's just like, it doesn't make sense. Like, the second thing is the fans who want to point to one instance and be like, he had this classic, so he has arrived, because it's the culmination of a story. And it's like you said, Jeremy, he's been given a lot of stories, a lot of pushes, a lot of runs, and they haven't all culminated the way that you would want them to be. So I'm going to pump the brakes on that. I'm not saying that it's not going somewhere good. It might be, but I'm going to withhold judgment and just use my critical thinking and be like, we've seen this before. He's failed many times. Hopefully that's not what this is, but I'm not going to call him the heir apparent and say he is everything that we wanted him to be because he had a classic in a tournament final with David Finley, who's proven himself to maybe be like a top 3 worker in the company right now.
Yeah.
And then the last thing is, I think that the claims of the fan base being too critical on him that's not based in truth, honestly. The reality is that he has been given more chances than any modern guy that I can think of, while still failing time and time and time again. And I think that the claims of being undeserving and there being that nepotism sort of angle probably ring true, because I can't think of it. I mean, look at where Great O'Con is these days, when Great O'Con broke in, we heard all the stories. This is a guy that they got big plans for. This is someone that is going to be a main eventer. It's not a matter of if he wins the title, it's when he wins the title. They gave him Tanahashi, his first big match back. They gave him Okada and Tanahashi right out the gate. And guess what happened? He didn't perform at the level they wanted him to. And yeah, he's still used well. I think that he's also an inconsistent performer, but I think he's a more dependable guy, even if I don't think he peaks as high in terms of great matches as Umino, but he's more dependable as a performer than Shota Umino is, in terms of just, will he give you a good match night in and night out? But he only had so many shots and they cut that shit off quick, and it's never coming back. He's not, but for whatever reason, Shota Umino can fail time and time again. And it's not a few times. It's like a lot. When I say that he's got like 30 bad singles matches, he's got like 30 bad singles matches.
Yeah, you look at his G1, you look at some of his other big matches out throughout last year, and
bro, his first G1 is better than the second G1, and the second G1 he had a much more robust and widely varied pool of opponents, and he had a terrible G1.
Yeah.
And he still got in the Tokyo Dome somehow. And then he failed in the Tokyo Dome. I don't get it.
Yeah. And I will say at times the booking has not been the best for him, but also too, he just does not always perform at the highest level too.